Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is opening day in Washington, D.C., and coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to get a preview of the park experience at Nats Park. Every year they add some new stuff, new food, new attractions, new things, you know, to take your mind off of the game, frankly. I don't know. I have high hopes for this year's team. I think they're going to be a lot better than last year. Right? We can hope. It's 8:07. It's O'Connor and Company. Larry and Julie this morning, this Thursday. Good morning, Julie.
Morning.
Joining us right now is a friend of the show and a fan favorite. She's the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, author of the book Revolution. You can follow her on X at real KT McFarland. She is, well, the real KT McFarland. Good morning, KT.
Good morning.
All right, so I got to ask, you know, when Kissinger and Nixon are planning a strategy on Cambodia or, you know, maybe a trip to China, were they using the Signal app back then? How did they have these conversations?
Face to face.
Face to face, yeah.
Literally face to face.
Yeah. Obviously,
you know,
unrealistic,
really
and I'm being flippant, KT. But do you think that this Signal issue? It's not great that Jeffrey Goldberg was included in this, and it's not great that this information is public. But is it a threat to national security?
No, and you know, look, it's a bunch of things. Obviously, somebody screwed up. Somebody must have been talking to Jeffrey Goldberg, and probably shouldn't have been, on an off-the-record situation, and had that phone number in their, had Goldberg's number in their cell phone contact list. And so, look, it was a screw-up. We've all made screw-ups. In this case, it was, you know, I'm sure somebody will be taken to the woodshed. Somebody will be in a lot of trouble right now. Easy to find out who put that number in. But it obscures the bigger picture, which is, wow, what a successful operation. Right. You know, they took out the Houthis. This should be what we're celebrating. They've reopened the Red Sea. They've made global shipping and maritime transit through the Suez Canal and Red Sea huge successes. This is a major win for Egypt, which it takes a lot of its revenues from transit through the Suez Canal. It's a major win for Europe, which gets something like 40% of its shipping comes through that lane. So this is a big, big win. Now, what do I take away from the fact that they're talking to each other? I'd always wondered, because, you know, I was in the first Trump term, and I know how long it takes to make these decisions, because you have a deputies meeting in the Situation Room, and everybody debates it from all the different agencies. Then it moves up to the principals, which is the cabinet officers themselves. Then it's taken to the president. So I could never figure out, how are they making these quick decisions in real time and achieving so much so quickly? And it's because they're all talking to each other in real time. And it's not the aides who are talking to each other. It's the top guys who are talking to each other. So that was my number one takeaway from the substance of it. And the second one is they all seem to be getting along.
Yeah.
You know, normally in Washington, what is the biggest war in Washington? Between the State Department and the Defense Department. These guys are all talking to each other. They're sharing their concerns, but they all realize finally who's the boss, and that's President Trump. It's not like it was in the first Trump term, where the agencies were fighting with each other, or a lot of the cabinet officials thought that their job was to rein Trump in or to change his mind. It was so, I don't know, my takeaway from it is this is a really good group of people who are capable at the top levels. They're talking to each other, they're getting stuff done, and somebody screwed up big time. But it's going to be done. It'll be over and done.
You know, one other thing that I thought it revealed, though, is just how, I mean, I know we know this, but how bloodthirsty the media is to have a scandal, and that everything is going to be, you know, the sky is falling, everyone needs to resign, the president needs to resign, and everyone needs to go to jail. They're going to have this reaction no matter what. Firing
squad. They're going to have a firing squad. No, look, they just cannot bear the fact that there's another Trump success. You know, so they've got to find something wrong with it. And they were all and when you think about the insignificance of this compared to all the massive successes President Trump has had in foreign policy and domestic policy, this is kind of thin gruel, right? If this is the biggest problem they can come up with. The other thing, though, Joy, that struck me was they're saying in private exactly what they're saying in public. Yes. So unlike most administrations where they never, you never say in public what you're saying in private. You never say anything controversial in public because God forbid. But these guys are straightforward. What you see is what you get.
Right.
So all in all, I'm taking away from this is going to be a very successful administration because these are really top people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, KT, we're seeing some really interesting movements right now in the Middle East and going after some of the really bad guys who were allowed to sort of be bad, right? And not only are we seeing some progress in our offensives against the Houthis to sort of finally put them in a box, but it also sort of shines a light on how these things were allowed to fester over the last several years. Syria is a good example, too. I know that you've had a lot of sort of oversight and you've lent your hand into sort of what our strategy should be against these monsters. And I'd love for you to sort of reflect on that because that's sort of lost in the mix here, too.
Yeah, they were all getting away with whatever they wanted to get away with. And there was and the Biden administration mindset and approach was, well, let's not get them too upset. Let's kind of give them this, let's give them that. We really don't want this to escalate. And they really misunderstood a fundamental fact of, geopolitics, if not human nature. That if you let somebody bad guys keep pushing, they'll always want more. They'll never be satisfied. That you have to stand up to them. That's why in the first Trump term, so early on, there was Bashar al-Assad of Syria was using chemical weapons against his own people. He had done the same thing in the prior Obama administration, and President Obama said, oh, no, red line. If Assad uses chemical weapons, we're going to intervene. But then Assad did. He used chemical weapons. Did Obama intervene and force the red line? No, he let it pass. So when President Trump comes in, Assad's using chemical weapons again. Trump doesn't, jump up and down and become hysterical. He just bombs them, and he takes out the airfields that were being used for the flights to use the chemical weapons. So what does that do? It does a couple of things. Well, it takes out the threat, right? But it also puts a massive deterrent fear in the minds of all the bad guys, completely contrary to what the Obama administration had done with its impeachment. So what happened during the Trump first term? Assad was in his box, never used chemical weapons. Israel was protected. Iran did not fund the proxies. Iran did not orchestrate attacks against Israel. Russia didn't invade anybody. And he got a good trade deal with China. I think one of the reasons Trump got a good trade deal with China later was because when the attack had been announced, President Trump was sitting shoulder to shoulder with the Chinese president in Mar-a-Lago enjoying dessert, chocolate cake. And that's when President Trump got the word that the Syrian attack had been 100% successful. And he turned to the Chinese president and said, oh, by the way, we've just taken out the airfields. And that's when the Chinese president said to the translator, please repeat. Trump repeated it. Translator repeated it. And then Xi Jinping looks at Trump and says, repeat again, to make sure he didn't get anything wrong. And at that moment, Trump, that was the ultimate beta dog move, right? And nobody messed with Donald Trump after that.
KT McFarland, thank you for that. And by the way, I'm reminded by a loyal listener, Brian, that Nixon did not need Signal for such things. He had Rosemary Woods come in and take dictation. And she handled all the technological concerns there in the Oval Office, if I remember right. And that worked out well, didn't it?
I'm just not even going to take that bait, Larry. You just go on with your day.
Thank you. We'll just let that get lost in the 18 minutes of missing tape. All right. Thank you, KT. Great to talk with you.
Thank you.
Kind of a callback to a joke from 1973. 8:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
Vice President J.D. Vance continued to strut his stuff around the greater Washington area. This time was down at Quantico, where the first ever Marine who has risen to the level of vice president rubbed elbows with his fellow leathernecks. And it sounded pretty cool. Cut 31 here. Listen to all those young Marines sort of excited about seeing the vice president. They all bark.
Hurrah, Marines, how we doing?
You know, my future son-in-law, who will be marrying my daughter in about 5 weeks, Julie, is a Marine. He was at Quantico for about 6 months a year and a half ago, and I can verify they bark. They bark at the dinner table. If you say something about the Marines, young Jonathan steps up and goes, "Arr!" like that. It's very weird.
That's great.
It's a very weird thing that they do.
What a great thing to see. A boost of morale.
Yeah. Cut 32 here. A little bit of this speech from J.D. Vance.
I'm proud of all of you. As General Chuck Krulak said, the Marine Corps does two things. It wins battles, it wins wars, and it makes Marines. And that's a pretty good damn thing to do for the United States of America. So I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud of what you do. And most of all today, I'm proud that I think under new leadership, the Marine Corps and the entire United States military is headed in the right direction. And that's why I'm here today, to talk a little bit about what we're going to do, talk a little bit about President Trump's vision for the United States military, and importantly, after I do that and I serve some chow at the chow hall, I'm going to go shoot some guns, right? So here's the thing. Under President Trump's leadership, we believe in a very simple principle. We don't care who you are, where you came from. We don't care what skin color you are. We care about excellence, and we care about patriotism. And if you are awesome and you are a patriotic young Marine, then we are going to do everything that we can to make you the most lethal fighting force the world has ever seen, and that is what we're doing every single day. No more quotas, no more ridiculous mumbo-jumbo, no more diversity trainings. We believe the real strength and the real diversity in the United States Marine Corps is that you all come from every walk of life, come from every corner of America, and you have got the strength and the purpose to win the nation's wars, and that is what the Marine Corps is going to do, just like it's done for damn near 250 years.
I'm about to bark.
I'm sorry, where do I sign up? Where am I too old? Can I enlist?
Too old.
Let's go. Oh, that's a beautiful thing. No more quotas, no more mumbo jumbo, no more DEI trainings. Can we get
Larry,
him to talk to our corporate board here at our company?
Larry, when I was a very young congressional staffer, I actually did a sort of Codel a day at Quantico, and we shot all the guns, and I went down in a foxhole and I shot a big gun, and then this really sweet Marine got on all fours and let me step on his back so that I could get out of that foxhole. I have never forgotten that. It was the sweetest thing.
That's very cool.
Yes, they are wonderful down there at Quantico. They put quite a show on.
They're very sweet when they're not figuring out 10 ways
to kill you,
because that's what Marines do. And, by the way, J.D. Vance apparently has not skipped a beat, because he did get to the firing range. He, of course, fired off a machine gun, as you do, and then he got down into the sniper's stance. Every Marine is a rifleman, and here's what it sounded like when he apparently hit his target dead on. Listen.
Headshot.
Headshot. So he blew the target's head straight off. People were juxtaposing that moment with this flashback to the campaign trail when Tim Waltz, Tampon Tim, dressed like Elmer Fudd, had trouble loading his rifle. Take a listen.
Governor, what kind of gun is it? This is a Beretta A400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap, because it has a kind of their patented thing, a kickoff. So when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much.
Oh, God. Doesn't hurt your shoulder.
Meanwhile, J.D. Vance is out there with a machine gun.
Right.
50 cal.
Laying on his belly.
By the way, for everybody who's like wringing their hands about, oh, this is awful for women in the military, it's too masculine, it's too tough. No, you're wrong. If you're a female, I've met plenty of women Marines. One of our sponsor kids about to graduate from the Naval Academy is going Marines, and you do not want to F with her, all right? And I want you to listen. Our friend Mary Margaret Oleham was down there covering this for the Daily Signal, and she spoke with Lance Corporal Casey Bonestrew. Listen.
So to know that we have a leader in the White House who's been in our shoes and have experienced the same things that we have experienced is super motivating. I know at the end of the day, he was willing to get down and dirty for our country and the same thing that we are. So at the end of the day, the fact he's come in, taking his time to talk to us, it's amazing. And have a leader who's willing to do that, it's really cool to see.
Now, I just want to point out what just was said there. It's motivating to have a leader in the White House who's been in our shoes. Wait a second, but he's a man and she's a woman. So how could she look to him as some sort of representative, he understands us because he couldn't possibly. No, it's because she doesn't think like a woman or a man. She thinks like a Marine.
That's right.
That's the point.
There you go.
I love everything about this, and I love the direction our military is taking.
I just really quickly got to tell.
Everything we're seeing right now can be reversed very quickly in 4 years. So we just got to keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Just during this segment, I got a text from a friend. Her husband serves, and she was listening to us and heard the clip, and she says she has tears in her eyes from what J.D. Vance said. So great to hear that military, not just military men and women, but their families are inspired by this. Yeah. Go J.D. Vance.
That includes me. And by the way, it's been said many times, but now's a good day to say it again. We are so back.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:37. It's O'Connor and Company. It's Larry and Julie, and today is opening day at Nats Park, and that just puts a smile on your face. I don't care. There's something about opening day. No matter what, you still have that hope. Everybody's even. Everyone starts out with the same record, and there's this sort of understanding that, this could be our year. And even more importantly, in my opinion, the food is really good at Nats Park. Anna Spiegel is a D.C. reporter for Axios, and she's here to tell us why it matters, because that's what Axios does. Anna, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, we don't always win the World Series. We did win it once a few years ago with that whole Baby Shark thing, which is still stuck in my head. But we do often win awards for the food over at Nats Park. We really do have sort of a great culinary experience despite what happens on the field.
Absolutely. They want to really make it about a fan experience. Even, it's obviously baseball first, but they want you to eat really well, too.
Yeah, and what I love about what happens at Nats Park is that they really do try to patronize and utilize local businesses from this area to bring them in so that you can really have a good D.C., Maryland, Virginia experience. So what's different this year? What's new? Absolutely.
Well, so they host a Shark Tank style competition with local vendors and picked 11 new vendors for food and drink at Nationals Park. They have 40 plus vendors already from the DMV area, but it really represents DC. It's a very global city. So you have people like, Tim Ma's Lucky Danger, which is an American Chinese food. You'll have delicious dumplings and orange chicken bites. Pho Wheels is offering their delicious banh mi and egg rolls. There's a taqueria in Alexandria. Taqueria Picoso, they do, Mexico City natives, delicious home-style tacos and tortas. And, of course, you can't forget about the drinks. Cotton and Reed, which is a rum distillery in D.C., they're going to be making daiquiris and dark and stormies. And Electric Kool-Aid is going to do their boozy slushies.
Oh, Let's boozy go. Slushy! You have me at boozy, Anna. I also I'm loving this. You mentioned a place in Alexandria. There's another place in Alexandria, Haute Dogs and Fries, which was sort of located at the edge of Old Town. And I love this because hot dogs are very much a standard at ballparks, but Haute Dogs and Fries, they are super fancy. Tell us about them.
Yeah, absolutely. They were part of the original Shark Tank style competition called Pitch Your Product in 2015, and they're still at the park today, 10 years later. So it's a great story, and they do, as you said, delicious hot dogs, but with international twists. You have pho dog, you have Chicago dogs, you have all these great fun toppings to make it a little more interesting than your average ballpark dog.
Yes, it's fun.
So,
it's very fun.
Did you say banh mi's?
Yes, they do a banh mi. It's funny. It's funny, Anna. That's the one that I get every time I go. It's the banh mi.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so delicious. So you have regular, you'll have traditional banh mi from Pho Wheels, and you can get banh mi hot dogs from Hot Dogs and Fries.
But don't think they're not all like super
funky,
sort of strange. I mean, they have really good sort of standard hot dogs too.
Absolutely,
well, and of course
you can find anything.
Just to be clear, I just want to be clear on some of the places that we've grown to love. I want to make sure they're still there. I'm assuming the Steak Shack is still like a mile-long line back there in center field, right?
Absolutely. And they also, one of the other new things they have this year, food halls are very trendy. They actually opened a food hall in Nats Park. It's where the Budweiser Loft used to be. It's not like what you think of as tons of different stalls, but they're going to have different, kind of stations depending on who is playing. So for the Phillies, they have, Philly cheesesteak nachos, things like that. And they're also collaborating with some players on some of the dishes. You'll find Zim's Ribs, an ode to Zimmerman, who retired, but he loves ribs. So you'll find those there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's great.
Now, listen, I'm afraid to ask this question because I love one of my favorite DC restaurants is medium rare. We love bringing people to medium rare, and for a while there, they had a medium rare steak sandwich in left field. Is that still there?
Unfortunately, it's not. But I heard from Mark Bucher, the owner, and he's trying to get back in the park. So maybe if enough fans, say they miss it, they'll come back. It was delicious. I agree. And that steak sauce.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that
sauce is the greatest. Oh, it's the greatest. Yeah, we need to get medium rare back at the park. Yeah, see, I was afraid of that.
Take a picture of medium rare.
Yes.
All right. What else is just real fast? Like if because we can't eat it all, but if you could choose one, I'm sorry for putting you in this position, but if we're going to the park and we want to try one of the new places, what do you recommend?
I'm really excited about all of them. I love Lucky Danger dumplings. Those are
Me
good
too.
quick bite. I'm also really excited about Cannon 46, which is a fun kind of Hawaiian Filipino vendor. They're going to have tuna tartare nachos, which sound like very different, but if you want something completely different than what you usually get at the ballpark, that might be something fun to try.
Cammon 46. That is very cool that they took a food truck and they said, hey, all right, food truck food should easily transfer to a little, stand up there at the park. So very cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're excited. I know. Listen, you can go to other radio stations and find out what you think of the relief pitchers and what you think of the bench. We're talking food here.
Exactly.
It's part of the experience, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us on this.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you so much. Have a happy opening day.
Thank you. It's 8:43.
WMAL, making sense of the economy because it's your money and your retirement. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
You've got to love, Julie Gunlock, when things that should be completely non-controversial suddenly become controversial. Get this, the metro system in Washington, D.C. is now getting what they're calling a new look. They're installing American flag decals on the rail cars. It's the nation's capital. It's America. It's patriotic. It's just a little flag. It's not a big deal. And people are upset about it.
I know.
First of all, why weren't they there in the first place?
Excellent point.
But they're calling this the Trump effect. Oh, great. The Trump effect. Now we got to look at the American flag. They're like yelling about the fact that we have a funding crisis. We might have cuts to services. But no, let's make sure we get an American flag on the train. I hate these people. I honestly hate these people sometimes.
I know, Larry. I know. I love
and I guarantee you. If this were the trans pride flag, they'd be celebrating this.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Absolutely. I mean, in fact, they are disgusted that it's not the trans pride flag. Also, if it were a Palestinian flag, I mean, they would be fine with it.
Yes.
Right, Larry? Right.
Good
a Ukraine
point.
flag, perfectly fine with that.
Listen, if their argument is that we should stop funding Metro and WMATA, I'm all for that. Let's let it survive on its own. But in the meantime, if we're going to do something, this is a good thing to do. 8:52. All right, Julie, thank you so much. Patrice will be here for tomorrow's Friday episode. And up next is Chris Plant. Big happenings in Northern Virginia there, Christopher.
Yeah, I tell you, I was minding my own business last night, hanging out with my MS-13 friends, when sudden FBI raid, and, they're just sure they're in the country illegally, and they're heavily armed and trafficking. And
were you getting another face tattoo again? You gotta cut down on that.
Not a lot of room left at this point. Not a lot of. Look like one of those guys.
Didn't Joy Reid tell us there's no such thing as MS-13, Chris?
I think. Well, I don't remember her saying, but she's a brilliant woman, so I wouldn't put it past her. We got that going on, and visits the prison.